The Spring Grove Lions got back on the winning track last week with victory over Wabasha Kellogg. Head coach Kody Moore here to recap this one. And Kody, after seeing the game and after reviewing the film, what were your takeaways from last Friday night?
Well, I would say again, overall, I was real pleased with our defense. We only gave up the one touchdown there in the second quarter. Um, the other score that they had was on a kick return to open the second half. So defensively, we really did what we wanted to do in terms of limiting their run game. Like I had told you last week, they had a real nice sized tight end, and they like to get the ball to him. And they were able to a few times, but in general, I thought we did a pretty good job on that side of the ball. Physical up front, like we always talked about. And so I was pleased with that. Offensively, I thought we started the game pretty well. We put a nice drive together there to open the game, drove down 60, 65 yards, and then we were stopped on downs there down in the red zone. But had at least put a real nice drive together there. The middle part of the game, we got a little sloppy again. I felt like we were kind of stuck in the mud in terms of back to some of our snap issues a little bit. We had a few turnovers, a few interceptions. That was tough, but what I did like is that we finished the game strong. We put a nice drive together. At the end of the game, we were down 1 point, got the ball back with 4 minutes, and we went down and scored to take the lead there with 2 minutes left, and executed our no huddle 2 minute offense really well. So there was positive things there to finish the game offensively.
And you've seen a decent amount of good things from your offense on a game in and game out basis. How do you get it more consistent moving forward here in the second half of the year?
Well, what you hope is some of those guys that are kind of getting their first varsity reps just start to settle in and get used to the speed and the physicality of the game. I think that's a big thing. It's all about game reps. And so, you would hope by this time of the season here, we're halfway, they start to kind of settle in that way. And I think that's really what it's about is just getting comfortable with that speed. Um, and just making sure we're focusing on those details of the day one stuff in terms of fundamentals. And I think as long as we continue to do that, we'll be okay here going forward.
And what has allowed your defense to keep taking those positive steps forward through the first four contests?
Well, it all starts up front. Tyson Moen in the middle there at nose, Noah Hepner, Devin Williams was out last week, but Christian Bierke did a really nice job filling in for him. And so I think with those guys, when they play with the physicality and the pad level that we want, that's where it all starts. Our linebackers, that's an experienced group. Jacob, Dash, Ricky, those guys got a lot of reps last year too, and so when they're playing downhill and physical, okay, we're really tough on defense. Now, at times, we're breaking down film and we're seeing things that could be a little bit better out of them. But they're very coachable kids and listen to that stuff. And then on the back end, you talk about Friday night there against Wabasha, Ezra Konkel, sophomore, he had 2 interceptions. So that was a good thing to see there in the back end. Sam Klug's been solid. Caden Gerard at safety, he's got a pile of picks on the year. So just across the board, I think we're doing a nice job. But again, like on both sides of the ball, it starts up front, and I think our D line has really set the tone.
And you talk about those guys on the back end, not the biggest in stature guys, but they're not afraid to hit, are they?
Yeah, no, and that's a good point because, in our district, in our section, you're facing a lot of run heavy teams where your corners, they almost turn into outside backers. And your safety, he's a guy that a lot of times in run schemes, he's unblocked. So for him to be able to come up and stick and fill in the run game, that's an important aspect in that run defense for sure.
And this week, you head to Kingsland. You faced them twice last year, and both were instant classics. One went your way, and you lost another game in overtime. What about this year's edition of Kingsland? What's impressed you to this point?
Well, everybody knows it starts with their athletic quarterback, 3 year starter. Um, it's important to limit his legs, funnel him in, not let him get to the edge. I think, you can really see they like to run to the edges this year, maybe more so than even the past. They're physical up front, maybe not quite as big as they've been in the past, but they're well coached, fundamentally sound. The defensive side of the ball, we see physical linebackers, especially their middle backer. He really flies around, likes to get downhill. So, just trying to make sure that we get those guys covered up. And we know the biggest thing, and I know everybody hears it all the time, but it's going to be a physical battle. You saw that last year in both those games. And so, really, like every football game, but even more so important in a big game like this, it comes down to what happens up front at both sides of the ball, being able to control the line of scrimmage. And I think if we do a good job of that, we give ourselves a good shot to be in the game. And, hopefully we have, another, like you said, instant classic, Darren, that came down to the final play there in the regular season. I think it's their homecoming again. So it's always fun. It's a good rivalry. Matt does a great job over there, well-coached team. So we're excited for the opportunity.
Well, it ought to be a dandy game Friday night, Coach. Keep your kids healthy. We wish best of luck.
Thanks a lot, Darren.
Kody Moore, head coach of the Spring Grove Lions. Spring Grove at Kingsland this Friday night.